Praptasya kalyana gunanavasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda. Mahaprabhu Kirtana Nitya Gita Vaditya Madhyan Manasora Sena. Romancha Kampa Shitaranga Bhajo Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda. Shri Vigrahara Dhananitya Nana Shingaratan Mandira Marjanado. Yuktasya Bhaktam Shaniyunjatopi Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda. Chaturveda Shri Bhagavat Prasada Swadana Triptan Hari Bhakta Sangha. Kritaiva Triptim Bhajata Sadaiva Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda. 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 Shri Radhika Madhavayara Para Madhurya Lila Guna Rupa Namna. Pratikshana Swadana Lalupasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda. Nikunjayuna Radhikali Siddhai Yayali Bir Yuktira Pekshaniya. Tatrati Daksha Tivalabhasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda. Sakshadarit-vena samasta shashter Uktastata bhavyata eva sadvi. Kintu pravarya priyavatasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda. Yasya prasada Bhagavat prasado Yasya prasada nagati kutopi. Dayam Stuvam Sasya Yasya Shri Sandhyam Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda.
Dayam Stuvam Sasya Yasya Shri Sandhyam Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda.
Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda. Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Vasyachadeshatarine. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Nilamada Radha Nilamada Radhe. Jaya Radha Nilamada Radha Nilamada Radhe. Jaya Jagannatha Jaya Jagannatha Jaya Baladeva Jaya Subhadra. Jaya Sitaram Jaya Sitaram Jaya Sitaram Jaya Lakshman Hanuman. Jaya Goranita Jaya Goranita Jaya Goranita Jaya Goranita. Nita Gora Haribo 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 Nita Gora Haribo.
Namaste Narasimhaya. Prahlad Lad Daine. Hiranyakashi Purvakshaha. Hiranyakashi Purvakshaha. Shilatankanakalaye. Jaya Shilatankanakalaye. Ito Narsimha Parato Narsimho. Ito Narsimha Narsimha यतो यामि ततो नरसिंहा यतो यामि ततो नरसिंहा बाहिर नरसिंहो हृदये नरसिंहो बाहिर नरसिंहो हृदये नरसिंहो नरसिंहमदिं शरणं प्रपद्ये नरसिंह शरणं प्रपदे तव करकमलवरे नाकाम् अद्भुतशृङ्गां ललिता हिरण्यकशिपु तनुभृङ्गां केशवधृता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे स्वामी जय जगदीश हरे कमलवरे नाकाम् अद्भुत शृङ्गां ललिता हिरण्यकशिपु तनुभृङ्गा केशवधृता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे केशवधृता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे केशवधृता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव जय सिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव जय देव जय नरसिंहदेव जय भक्ता प्रहलाद जय भक्ता प्रहलाद जय भक्ता प्रहलाद जय भक्ता प्रहलाद जय प्रहलाद जय भक्ता प्रहलाद जय भक्ता प्रहलाद जय भक्ता प्रहलाद जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय गुरुदेव 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 जय जय गुरुदेव जय जय गुरुदेव 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 जय जय गुरुदेव विघ्न विनाशक लक्ष्मी नरसिंहदेव भगवान की जय भक्त शिरोमणि प्रहलाद महाराज की जय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि
वृंदाय तुलसी देव्याय प्रियाय केशवसच विष्णु पाक्तिपदे देवी सत्यवत्याय नमो नमः
वृंदाय तुलसी देव्याय प्रियाय केशवसच विष्णु भक्ति पदे देवी सत्यवत्याय नमो नमः
वृंदाय तुलसी देव्याय प्रियाय केशवसच विष्णु पाक्तिपदे देवी सत्यवत्याय नमो नमः
वृंदाय तुलसी देव्याय प्रियाय केशवसच विष्णु भक्ति पदे देवी सत्यवत्याय नमो नमः
वृंदाय तुलसी देव्याय प्रियाय केशवसच विष्णु पाक्तिपदे देवी सत्यवत्याय नमो नमः
वृंदाय तुलसी देव्याय प्रियाय केशवसच विष्णु भक्ति पदे देवी सत्यवत्याय नमो नमः
वृंदा देवी तुलसी महारानी की
जय
नमो नमः तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः राधा कृष्ण सेवा पाओ ए अभिलाषी राधा कृष्ण सेवा पाओ ए अभिलाषी जे तमारा शरण लो तारा वंचा पूर्ण हो कृपा कोरी करो तारे वृंदावन वासी मोरा अभिलाष विलास कुंज दियो वास नयने हरि बो सदा युगल रूप राशि ए निवेदन धारो सखेर अनुगत करो सेवाधिकार दिए करो निज दासी दीना कृष्ण दासे कोई ऐ दीना मोरा होए श्री राधा गोविंदा प्रेमे सदा ये न भासी श्री राधा गोविंदा प्रेमे सदा ये न भासी ज्ञानी कानि च पापानि ब्रह्म हत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे ज्ञानी कानि च पापानि ब्रह्म हत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे ज्ञानी कानि च पापानि ब्रह्म हत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय तुलसी महारानी 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 जय वृंदा देवी 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 निताय गौरा हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल निताय गौरा हरि बोल हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे श्री श्री तुलसी महारानी की वृंदा देवी की जय।
Whoever takes shelter of you has wished fulfilled. Bestow mercy upon him and make him a resident of Vrindavana. My desire to also grant me residence in the precious ghost of Shiva and Dhavanatam. Thus within my vision I shall always behold the beautiful path of Radha and Krishna. I beg you to make me a follower of Karo Dance of the Virgin. Please give me the privilege of devotional service and make me your own maid servant. This very fallen and lowly servant of Krishna prays. May I always swim in the love of Shri Radha and Govinda. Srimati Tulsi Maharani ki jai. There are 10 fences in the matter of chanting holy names that should be avoided, and they are as follows. 1. To blaspheme the devotees who have dedicated their life for the propagation of holy name of the Lord. 2. To consider the name of the demigods like Lord Shiva or Brahma to be equal to independent name Lord Vishnu. 3. To disobey the order of a spiritual master. 4. To blaspheme the Vedic literature or literature pursuant the Vedic version. 5. To consider the glory of chanting Hare Krishna to be imagination. 6. To give some interpretation to holy name of the Lord. 7. To commit sinful activities and strength of chanting holy name. 8. To consider chanting Hare Krishna one of the auspicious ritualistic activities, offering the Veda the fruity activities, karma, ganda. 9. To instruct a faithless person about the glory of the holy name. 10. To not complete faith in the chanting holy names and to maintain material attachments, even understanding so many instructions on this matter. It is also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to be a Vaishnava must carefully guard against these 10 offenses. In order to quickly achieve desired success, Krishna Prema. Now let us have our most humble obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. They are just as high trees who can fulfill to everyone, and their full compassion the fallen conditioned soul. Shri Chaitanya Shikshastakam ki jai. Cheto Darpana Marjanam Pavamahadavagni Nirvapanam Shriya Kairava Chantrika Vitaranam Vidyavatu Jivanam Anandam Buddhivardhanam Pratipadam Purunarmita Sadhanam Sarvatmasnapanam Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Namakari Pahuda Nija Sarva Shaktis Tatra pita niyamita smaranena kalaha etadishi tava kripa bhagavan mamapi turudevami disham yaha janina nuragaha trinatapi sunichena tarorapi saishnuna amanina manatena kirtanya sata harihi na thanam na janam na sundarin kavitam vajagadisha kamaye Mama Jammani Jamanishware Bhavata Bhaktir Haituki Doi Ayinanda Tanuja Kinkaram Patitam Mam Vishame Bhavam Buddha Kripaya Tava Pada Pankaja Sthita Duri Satisham Vichintaya Nayanam Kalata Shurutaraya Vadanam Katkata Rudaya Gira Pulakaya Nichitam Vapur Kada Tava Nama Karhane Bhavishati Yuga itam nimishena chakshusha pravisha itam shunya itam jagat sarvam govinda virahe name ashrisha va padaratam pinnastumam adarshana marmahatam karotu va yatha tatha va vitatatu lampato mat prananathastu se eva naparaha Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Shri Chaitanya Shikshastakam ki jai. Glory to the Shri Krishna Sankirtana, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes fire of conditional life, or repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction of humanity at large, because it spreads the rays and banishing moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendent bliss and enables us to fully taste the nectar for which always anxious. O my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction human beings, and thus you have hundreds of millions of names like Krishna and Govind. In these transcendent names you have vested all your transcendental energies. They are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, how the kindness enables us to easily approach you by holy names, but one so unfortunate have no attraction for them. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street. One should be more tolerant on a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be rated off all respect others. In such a state of mind, one can chant holy name of the Lord constantly. Oh, mighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service, birth after birth. O Son of Nanda, I am your eternal servitor, yet somehow I have fallen into the ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the ardent to your lotus feet. O my Lord, won't my eyes be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? Won't my voice choke up? Won't as my body stand end the recitation of your name? O Govinda, feeling of separation, I'm considering the moment to be like a great millennium. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I'm feeling all weakened in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and she shall remain so even if he handles me roughly by his embrace, or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipable Lord, unconditionally. Shri Chaitanya Shikshastakam ki jai. Shri Mangala Charana prayers ki jai. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshum Litam Yena Tasmai Shri Karave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manopishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Soyam Rupa Kada Mahyam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Ragnatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nivishesha Shunyavadi Pachata Desha Tarine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Iti Namine Shri Varshabhanavi Devi Daitaya Kripaptaye Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Daine Prabhavin Namaha Madhuryo Jala Premadya Shri Rupanuga Bhaktida Shri Gaura Karana Shakti Vigrahaya Namostute Namaste Gauravani Shri Murtaye Dinatarine Rupanuga Viruta Pasiddhanta Dvanta Harine Namo Gaura Kisharaya Saksha Vairagya Murtaye Vipalamba Rasam Bodhe Padam Bojate Namaha Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Sachidananda Namine Gaura Shakti Svarupaya Rupanuga Varayate Gauravir Bhava Bhumistvam Nirtishta Sajanapriyaha Vaishnava Sava Bhauma Shri Jagannathaya Te Namaha Vancha Kalpatarupishcha Kripa Sindhu Bhevacha Patitanam Pavnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratishin Namaha Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam He Krishna Karna Sindho Dinapanto Jagapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Jaitam Sroto Pango Mamamanda Materkati Masarvasva Padam Bojo Radha Madana Mohano Divyat Vindaranya Kalpajumadaha Shimadra Nagara Singhasanasto Shimadradha Shira Govinda Devo Prishtaripi Sevamano Smarami Shiman Rasarasarambi Vamsi Vata Tatastita Karsham Venu Soner Gopir Gopinata Sheyestunaha Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Datha Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Brahma Samhita prayers ki jai. Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachidananda Vigraha Anadiradya Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam Chintamani Prakarasat Masukalpa Viksha Laksha Riteshu Surabhira Pipalayantam Lakshmi Sahasra Shatasam Brahmasevimanam Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Venum Kanantam Aravinda Dalayadaksham Parharvatam Samasitam Buddha Sundarangam Gantarpakoti Kamaniya Vishesha Shobham Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Alola Chandakala Savanamada Vamshi Ranang Kadam Pranayakeli Kalavilasam Shamam Tripanga Lalitam Nyata Prakasham Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Anganiyasya Sakalendriya Vrittimanti Pashanti Panti Karayanti Chiram Jaganti Ananda Chimmaya Sadujala Vigrahasya Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Advaita Machota Manadi Mananta Rupam Adyam Purana Purusham Navayovanam Cha Vedeshu Durabam Madurabam Atma Bhakto Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Pandastu Koti Shatavasara Sampragamyo Vayurathapi Manaso Munipangavaanam Sopyasti Yaprapada Simya Vichinta Tattve Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Ekopya Sarataitum Jagatanta Kotim Yashakti Rasti Jagatanta Chayaya Danta Andantarastha Paramanu Chayantarastam Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yad Bhava Pavitatiyo Manujastateva Samprapya Rupa Mahimasana Yana Pusha Suktayam Eva Nikama Pratithaistu Vanti Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Ananda Chimmay Rasa Pratipavitapi Stharpeya Eva Nijaruptaya Kalavi Goloka Eva Nivasatya Kilatma Bhuto Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Premanjana Churuta Bhakti Vilochanena Santa Sadeva Hridayeshu Vilokayanti Yam Shama Sundram Achintya Guna Swarupam Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Ramadi Murti Shukala Yamena Tishtan Nana Avatara Makaro Bhuvaneshu Kintu Krishna Swayam Samabhava Paramapumam Yo Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami.
Shri Brahma Samhita Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namani. Namaste Saraswati Deve Guruvani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paskatya Desatarine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So today we're going to go over homework, and there were two principal assignments. One was to explain the two weaknesses of the heart and write an essay about it. And the other was to write down the various promises that Krishna makes in the Bhagavad Gita. So, is there anybody here that did their homework? No. All right, so I'll give some general points until the people come who did their homework. In the end of the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, it says, while one is performing devotional service in the association of pure devotees in full Krishna consciousness, there are certain things which require to be vanquished altogether. Vanquished means eliminated or purified. The most important thing one has to surmount is weakness of the heart. The first fall down is caused by the desire to lord it over material nature. Thus, one gives up the transcendental loving service to the Supreme Lord. The second weakness of the heart is that as one increases the propensity to lord it over material nature, he becomes attached to matter and the possession of matter. Let me read that again. The second weakness of heart is that as one increases the propensity to lord it over material nature, he becomes attached to matter and the possession of matter. The problems of material existence are due to these weaknesses of the heart. In this chapter, the first 5 verses describe the process of freeing oneself from these weaknesses of heart, and the rest of the chapter, from the 6th verse through the end, discusses Purushottama Yoga. Okay, so this is the general, let's say, explanation of what these two weaknesses of the heart are. And the homework was to write a essay explaining this. Now, some people did that in a short-term way, and some people did that in a very long way. So we'll begin. Well, let me give you a little bit more background, and then we'll begin to analyze the homeworks. In the 18th chapter, 27th verse of Bhagavad Gita, it says, "The worker who is attached to work and the fruits of work, desiring to enjoy those fruits, and who is greedy, always envious, impure, and moved by joy and sorrow, is said to be in the mode of passion." In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains, a person is too much attached to a certain kind of work or to the result because he has too much attachment for materialism or hearth and home, wife and children, such a person has no desire for higher elevation or higher spiritual elevation in life. He is simply concerned with making this world as materially comfortable as possible. He is generally very greedy, and he thinks that anything attained by him is permanent and never to be lost. Such a person is envious of others and prepared to do anything wrong for sense gratification. Therefore, such a person is unclean, and he does not care whether his earning is pure or impure. He is very happy if his work is successful and very much distressed when his work is not successful. Such is the worker in a mode of passion. And then in text 28, 18th chapter, text 28 says, the worker who is always engaged in work against the injunctions of the scripture, who is materialistic, obstinate, cheating, and expert in insulting others, and who is lazy, always morose, and procrastinating, is said to be a worker in the mode of ignorance. And the purport says, in the scriptural injunctions we find what sort of work should be performed and what sort of work should not be performed. Those who do not care for those injunctions engage in work not to be done, and such persons are generally materialistic. They work according to the modes of nature, not according to the injunctions or the instructions of Scripture. Such workers are not very gentle, and generally they are always cunning and expert in insulting others. They are very lazy, even though they have some duty. They do not do it properly, and they put it aside to be done later on. Therefore, they appear to be morose. They procrastinate, meaning they're lazy. They procrastinate anything which can be done in an hour. They drag on for years. Such workers are situated in a mode of ignorance. So here we are, two examples, the mode of passion and mode of ignorance, that gives an idea, a clear idea also, of the problem when you have these weaknesses of heart. And it causes many problems, and it causes people to be people depending on such persons to be always in anxiety and distress. Okay. So now let's, Prabhuji, you wrote a long essay. We're not going to read the whole thing. I'm going to show you which parts you can explain. Okay. 1 second. Now you did it. It was an excellent essay, but it's very long. So we'll just read the fundamental parts. So if you go down to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 points. Too much attached to work and fruits of work, no desire for higher elevation in life, greedy, envious, etc. Okay?
Yeah.
So first of all, read the first 2 lines of the essay. The desire to lord it over. Go ahead.
His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada concludes the purport of BG 1520 by stating that when one is performing devotional service, the main 2 weaknesses of the heart must be vanquished. They are desire to lord it over material nature, 2, attachment to matter and possession of matter.
Okay, now go down to right before too much attached to work. You read, when the bewildered living entity enjoys sense gratification.
When the bewildered living entity enjoys sense gratification, there may be some feeling of happiness, but actually, that so called feeling of happiness is the ultimate enemy of the sense enjoyer. Therefore, lust or desire is the greatest enemy of the living entity because it induces the pure living entity to remain entangled in the material world. Such a living entity, influenced by mode of passion, will have following characteristics.
So you see, this is a very important statement. It's from the 5th chapter, 22nd verse. In which it says, yeah. Oh, anyway, in the 5th chapter, 22nd verse, in the purport, it says, those who are true yogis or learned transcendentalists are not attracted by sense pleasures, which are the causes of continuous material existence. The more one is addicted to material pleasures, the more he is entrapped by material miseries. So, the weaknesses of heart, first to dominate, and one gets so busy trying to dominate, they give up any possibility of engaging in devotional service. They don't have any time. They're too interested dominating. And then as they become successful in dominating and acquiring more and more material possessions, they become so attached to those material possessions that they never let go. And now they become completely bewildered in what is the purpose of life, and they completely ignore Krishna consciousness. Right? Okay. So, therefore it says here that the more one is addicted to material pleasures, the more he or she is entrapped by material miseries. So this is a law of nature. This is something that you cannot change. Any law of nature is established by Krishna himself. So therefore, we're not able to stop these things once we get caught by them. So the more one is addicted to material pleasures, the more one is entrapped by material miseries. Now, this is something most people would object to. They say, I don't believe that. They say, when I'm successful materially, I'm feeling transcendental. I'm feeling happy, and I don't believe that every time I succeed materially, that there's suffering that comes with it. But if you look at it carefully, you'll see it's true. The more one is addicted to material pleasures, the more miseries they suffer. This is a law of nature. It cannot be changed. Just like you cannot change birth, disease, old age, and death. You can try, but it's not going to be changed. It's a law of nature. Just like you can't change the fact that some people make mistakes, they're easily illusioned, their senses are imperfect, and they have a cheating propensity. It's a law of nature. It can be that can be purified by Krishna consciousness, but without Krishna consciousness, you cannot escape that. Making mistakes, getting into illusion, having imperfect senses, and then cheating propensity. Even a little kid, sometimes little kids are doing something naughty, and the mother catches them and said, "Did you do this?" And the kid said, "Well, I didn't do anything. I don't know what you're talking about." Of course, they're lying. Is that right? You've seen that in your own kids? Yeah. And who taught them that? Nobody taught them that. That it's a law of nature, you see. They have a cheating propensity. We all have a cheating propensity. So these things can only be purified by Krishna consciousness. Therefore, there's engaging in sense gratification, and then there's engaging in sense purification. So most people engage in sense gratification, and they get stuck by these laws of material nature, which they cannot overcome, and it leads to tremendous amount of frustration. And let's look right now, look up on the internet, how many people in the United States take medication for stress? Look that up. It's a very interesting point. What's it say?
Around March 2019 is 9.7 million. Sorry, in March 2020, 9.7 million.
Okay. They're taking medication for stress.
For stress.
All right, that's the last figure that
That's coming in the top search.
Okay, how many people are in anxiety in the United States? So why would they be in anxiety? Because they engage in some activity for success and it leads to misery. And then they get into anxiety. How did this happen? Why is this happening to me? Or even before it leads to misery, they become anxious that maybe everything I've done is going to fail. Right? Okay, so then again it says, okay, the third chapter, 39th verse. Let's take a look at that. Okay, you read that. Now read the points. Go ahead.
Too much attached to work and fruits of work, no desire for higher elevation in life, greedy, envious, prepared to do anything wrong for sense gratification, impure, moved by joy and sorrow, very happy if his work is successful, and very much distressed when his work is not successful. He likes food that causes distress, misery, and disease.
So these are what? These are symptoms of a person who is
A mode of passion.
mode of passion, in other words, attached to possessions,
Yeah.
material possessions, and to sense gratification.
Yes.
So you see how complicated life becomes when we get caught by these two weaknesses of the heart. The first is the desire to dominate material nature, and then by that desire to dominate material nature and the effort to do it, we no longer have time for Krishna consciousness. We give up Krishna consciousness and be completely engaged in trying to pursue our goal of dominating. And then secondly, once we become successful at acquiring material possessions, we become so attached to them that we can't let go. Just like sometimes hunters, they use a special technique to catch monkeys in the wild. What they do is they get a wine bottle and put a cherry inside, a cherry berry inside. Now the monkeys are doing nonsense all day long. So when a monkey sees that bottle and sees that there's a fruit inside, it tries to stick its hand through the small hole of the bottle. And when it achieves that, and it grabs the cherry in its hand, that's when the hunter runs after the monkey to catch it. Now the monkey refuses to let go of the cherry, and because of that gets caught by the hunter. Here's an animal that's demonstrating exactly what happens to people also. And it says here in the end of the 39th verse of the 3rd chapter, and this is what you quoted, it says, "Therefore, this lust is the symbol of ignorance, by which sense gratification, I'm sorry, thus lust is a symbol of ignorance by which the living entity is kept within the material world. While one enjoys sense gratification, it may be there is some feeling of happiness, but actually that so-called feeling of happiness is the ultimate enemy of the sense enjoyer. So whatever happiness we feel by sense gratification, that is our worst enemy, because it convinces us to keep seeking out sense gratification. And the law of nature is, as soon as you have sense gratification, it's going to be followed by misery. So, therefore, because they had some success in sense gratification, even though now they're experiencing misery, they tolerate it and keep trying for more sense gratification. This is what is happening all over the world. It doesn't matter what religion you have, doesn't matter what race you are, or skin color you have. This is happening to everyone. We have to think very deeply about this. Very profound points. All right, now you're going to read, let's see. Okay. In later stages, lust of the living entity is transformed into wrath. Go ahead.
In the later stage, lust of the living entity is transformed into wrath, which
wrath
is
means anger.
Yes.
Why? Because they're not succeeding, so they get angry.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Which is the manifestation of the mode of ignorance. At this stage, the living entity is baffled.
Baffled means confused.
Yes.
Go ahead.
By lustful activities with following characteristics. Materialistics, work under the mode of material nature.
That's the first symptom of someone who is confused about their lusty activities. Go ahead. Materialistic, one works under the modes of material nature, that is goodness, passion, and ignorance. Go ahead.
Obstinate, stubbornly persistent in wrongdoing.
They're doing things wrong all the time, and they refuse to admit that they're wrong. They just stubbornly continue doing it. Go ahead.
Cheating, expert in insulting others, lazy, procrastinating, morose, and their mind rebels, dictates, why should I
So
serve?
procrastinating means they put their duties aside to be done later. They always say, oh, I'll do this at another time. I'll do this another time. Go ahead. Morose.
Morose, rebels. They
Always sad due to laziness and procrastination, putting off doing your duty and eventually not doing it. Go ahead. Next.
In the rebel.
Morose.
Morose, always sad due to laziness and procrastination. Then rebels, mind dictates, why should I serve Krishna? I am God.
I am God, right? Go ahead.
eats decomposed, putrid, and food consisting of remnants and untouchable things.
Yeah, like they eat meat and fish and eggs and all those things. All right, now read next. Krishna says,
Krishna says, thus perplexed by various anxieties and bound by a network of illusions, they become too strongly attached to sense enjoyment and fall down into hell. Bewildered by false ego, strength, pride, lust, and anger, the demons become envious of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is situated in their own bodies, in the bodies of others, and blaspheme against the real religion. Those who are envious and mischievous, who are the lowest among them, I perpetually cast into the
"Who are
ocean
the
of
lowest among men."
among men, I perpetually cast into the ocean of material existence, into various demoniac species of life.
So this is not that Krishna is being mean by doing that. Krishna corrects people in two ways. One, he speaks Bhagavad Gita, which is the solution to all problems. Two, he established the laws of karma, of reward and punishment. And when people act properly, they're rewarded. And when they act improperly, they're punished. So, therefore, in two ways, he tries to instruct people. One is by speaking Bhagavad Gita, which is the solution to all problems of life: birth, death, old age, and disease, etc. And number two, by laws of karma. Now, laws of karma, that means there's good karma and bad karma. Both are bad because you have to take birth again to get your good karma. So that means you stay in the material world. And you have to take birth again to have your bad karma, which means that you suffer. So both good karma and bad karma are bad. Now, what is good? The good thing is called akarma. So there's three types of karma. There's karma, vikarma, and akarma. Karma is acting according to the Vedas, but for enjoying sense gratification. Vikarma is acting against the Vedas, and instead of enjoying sense gratification, you suffer. And then akarma means acting without any reaction, either good or bad, because it's purely done to please Krishna. That is what Krishna consciousness is about. Now, most people don't know this because they don't read Bhagavad Gita. Akarma means that you're acting, but there's no reaction of good karma or bad karma, because your service is simply to please Krishna without an expectation of anything in return. So that is pure devotional service. This is what Lord Chaitanya is teaching. This is what we should learn. Some people never learn this, even though they come to classes, but they can't give up the weakness of the heart. So they continue to accumulate material things, and they become so attached to those material things they can't let go. So they become like the monkey. The monkey sticks their hand into the wine bottle, grabs the cherry, and now the hunter runs after the monkey to catch it, and the monkey gets caught because it refuses to let go of the cherry. This is what's happening every day in this world. And people are obstinate. Obstinate, that means even if they could let go of the cherry and free themselves, they refuse to do it. I will not do it. See, that is the extreme state of disease of the weakness of heart. even though the solution is there, and the solution is rather easy. They refuse to do it. Even though they come to class, even though they pass tests and so forth, do their homework, but still when it comes down to the fundamental issue, are they going to let go of the desire to dominate and exploit material nature and become very, very attached to material possessions? No, they're not going to do it. This is a very serious disease, these two weaknesses of the heart. Okay, so you did a very good homework.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you. I didn't want to read everything because it's very long, but you spent a long time doing it, and I thank you very much.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay, so now Krishna Chaitanya. His homework is not long, but it's very interesting. So let's hear what you said.
One second. So for the weakness of heart, I give three examples. I thought of three examples. One is Ajamila.
Ajamila,
yeah. He was attached to the woman and left his Brahminical service. And as he continued his association with women and his kids, he totally absorbed into the material activities until his death.
So he was a Brahmana, born into a Brahmana family. He was trained, and by the time he was 16, he was a full-fledged pujari. But one day, he was walking through the forest, and he saw two very low-class people, a man and a woman, engaged in illicit sex. And after seeing that, it influenced his mind, and he gave up being a Brahmana. And the rest of his life, he became a Vishayi, a sense gratifier. He eventually married some lady who was a prostitute. He had 10 kids with her. And the rest of his life, he cheated, lied to have money to please his wife and his kids. His last child he named Narayana because for at least 16 years he was a devotee before he gave up being Krishna conscious. So he just named his son Narayana. Now, because he named his last son Narayana, he was always saying, Narayana, come here. Narayana, take the trash out. Narayana, do your homework. Narayana, what are you doing? Narayana, let's go and we can play ball. So he was saying the name of Narayana all the time. And at the moment of death, he was having like a heart attack or something. He was with his son Narayana, and they were in a garden somewhere, a nice place. The last thing he said is Narayana, and he died. Now, because he was saying Narayana all the time, and especially at the moment of death, when the agents of Yamaraj came to take him to hell, the agents of Vishnu came, the Vishnu Dutas, and they said, you can't take him. He's actually purified of his sins. They said, what? Are you crazy? And they showed the list of all the sins he did. You know, they have a supercomputer. The supercomputer was there already in ancient times, right? And the agents of Yamaraj, they said, oh, well, no, we can't. We don't accept this. This is nonsense. We've never heard of anything like this. So then the Vishnu Dutas, they said, okay, then go ask your Gurudev, Yamaraj. So they go to Yamaraj, and the agents of Yamaraj, they say, sir, some very strange thing has happened. They explain about Ajamil, how he said the name of Narayana, but he didn't mean his son. I mean, he didn't mean Krishna. He was calling his son. But Yamaraj said, well, what the Vishnu Dutta said is true. The name of Narayana is absolute. So whether he meant his son or whether he meant Narayana, it doesn't matter. He said the name Narayana at the moment of death. He's very fortunate. And he said the name of Narayana many times during his life because he named his son Narayana. Now see, this was a normal thing in India before, in Bharat. Parents, when a child was born, a little girl or a boy, they would give them a name of the Lord. They named the child Radharani, or they would name the child Parvati Devi. Right? And then they named the son Krishna, or Govinda, or Madhava. Right? So their whole life, they're repeating the name of the Lord. And that means that they're going to be, okay, is that a little ant? All right, no, wait a minute, we have an expert here. Oh, he's not here. He didn't come today. All right, pick it up, just take it downstairs carefully, don't hurt it. It's right there, right there. Now the ant has captured all our interest. We forgot everything about Narayana. So the agents of Yamaraj heard it directly from the lips of their Gurudev. So then they stopped and said, okay, we accept. So we see how powerful it is to say the name of God, and how in previous times people understood this, and they would name their children, give the children's names of God. Now they give names like Pete, Joe, Bill, Johnny, all these Buzz, all these crazy names, right? You can say, hey, Buzz, 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 Buzz. You're not going to go back to Godhead, right? But if you name your child, Parvati or Radharani or Rohini Devi, or your son Krishna or Balaram, or like that, now you're saying the name of God all the time. So what has happened to society? All this has changed, and people are not understanding these transcendental principles anymore because they're in ignorance. They've been fooled by modern education. Okay, so thank you very much. Now read.
Second Angazopal Maharaj, I was thinking Dhritarashtra and Kauravas led by Duryodhana. After Pandu Maharaj left his body, Dhritarashtra became the king, and as he continued as a king till Pandavas became big and ready for their kingdom, he doesn't want to give the kingdom back to the Pandavas.
Yes, so when Pandava, the father of the Pandus, died, his sons were very young, so they couldn't manage the kingdom yet. So therefore, Pandu's brother, Dhritarashtra, was given the responsibility of managing the kingdom until the Pandava children grew up and became adults and ready to manage the kingdom. But because Dhritarashtra was not only blind materially, but blind spiritually also, he wanted his sons to be the kings and not give the kingdom to Pandu's sons. So that began the whole problem between the Kauravas and the Pandus. And so when it became evident that Dhritarashtra was not going to give the kingdom over to the lawfully empowered sons of Pandu, and Krishna, he tried everything to convince Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana to do that, and they refused. then Krishna said there's going to be war. There's going to be a fight. Although they did everything possible to avoid it, but when the Kauravas were so hell-bent to even go to war, so then there was no other choice. So war is usually the last, let's say, the last negotiation. One should try and avoid war as much as possible. But if there's no way of avoiding it because of the obstinacy of the other side, then there has to be a war, and you have to fight. So that's what happened, and it was a terrible war. In 18 days, 600 million people died. That just shows how lethal the weapons were 5,000 years ago. Even though they were using bows and arrows, the arrows were atomic arrows. So therefore, when Arjuna shot his arrows, he could kill 10,000 people at once. That's how powerful those mantra-laced arrows were. Now this, of course, people would say, oh, that's all made up stuff. We don't believe it. It's not possible, blah, blah, blah. But no, it's not made up. It's factual. Okay, so the history of, so you're giving two examples. One is Ajamil, and the other is Dhritarashtra, right? Both of them had the weakness of heart. And because of that, both of them had to experience tremendous suffering because they refused to purify their hearts. Okay, now you have a third example.
Yes, Maharaj. Third one. So Maharaj used to take us to Sankirtan every week, and I used to sit back and watch what's going on around. And at the entrance of Haifa, I used to see this homeless guy who used to give burritos and see. And
oh, the man we used to give burritos to at the end of the Sankirtan. Yeah.
Yes, Maharaj. Yeah.
Go ahead.
So we used to watch him like he's taking burritos and whatever we give, anybody give money or whatever. He doesn't have anything. He used to stand there. And one time I saw he got some broken chair.
Yeah.
And he started using the chair, I think. By the next week we went, he started locking up the chair. He does not lose the chair.
Ah, it's his possession now. So that was an example of the weakness of the heart. He became attached to the broken chair. And he's locking it up so no one else can take it away from him. There you are. That's like the monkey who grabs the cherry and refuses to let go. Same thing. Okay, so anybody else do the homework? Anybody else? Okay, let's finish the first one and then we'll come to the second one. Anybody else? Vidya, did you do your homework? No. Oh, big N-O. Let's see, who else? You didn't do homework? No? You didn't do homework? No. Another big no. Did you do it? No? Oh my God. You did? No. Okay. Well, at least there's a lot of no's. All right, then the second homework. Who did the second homework? Okay, you did the second homework. Now look, you gave too many answers. Let's do Dhananjaya. Let Dhananjaya read first. You did the second homework, the promises Krishna makes. Read the 5 prominent ones. Those are the most important. Krishna makes promises in the Bhagavad Gita. If you believe Krishna's promises, you will be successful. If you don't believe it, then you'll continue to unnecessarily suffer. He's promising the following things.
So I have 6 promises that are listed here. From 8.7, therefore Arjuna, you should always think of me in the form of Krishna, and and at the same time carry out your prescribed duty of fighting. With your activities dedicated to me and your mind and intelligence fixed on me, you will attain me without doubt. The next one is from chapter 9.
So that's a promise. He will attain me without doubt. Because
without doubt.
Yeah.
Chapter 9, verse 34. Engage your mind always in thinking of me. Become my devotee. Offer obeisances to me and worship me. Being completely absorbed in me, surely you will come to me.
Okay, so that's a promise.
From chapter 10, verse 10. Those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me.
Okay.
And then from chapter 11, verse 55. My dear Arjuna, he who engages in my pure devotional service, free from contamination of fruitive activities and mental speculation, he who works for me, who makes me the supreme goal of his life, and who is friendly to every living being, he certainly comes to me.
Good.
Chapter 12, verse 8. Just fix your mind on me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and engage all of your intelligence in me. Thus you will live in me always, without a doubt. And then verse 1865. Always think of me, become my devotee, worship me and offer me your homage, offer your homage unto me. Thus you will come to me without fail. I promise you this because you are my very dear friend.
So homage means respect. So here we have these verses, both they're all saying more or less the same thing. If we fix our mind on Krishna 24 hours a day, Krishna will liberate us from the cycle of birth and death and go back to Godhead. Guaranteeing it. He's promising it. Now, we have examples of people who think 24 hours a day of how to make money. There are other people who think 24 hours a day of how to have sense gratification. Other people think 24 hours a day how to make money on the stock market. Other people think 24 hours a day of enjoying finer things in life like wine, meat, and illicit activities. Okay. So here we see there are people who do think 24 hours a day. Like, for example, on the television, you have 24-hour channels. There's a 24-hour sports channel. There's a 24-hour weather channel. There's a 24-hour stock channel. There's a 24-hour movie channel. Is this true? Right. That means there are people who are watching these things. Otherwise, why would they have these channels? And there's a lot more channels like that, right? So if people can watch movies 24 hours a day, that proves that it's possible to think of Krishna 24 hours a day. Now, if you think of Krishna 24 hours a day, Krishna is guaranteeing that you'll come back to him and you'll solve the problem of birth, death, old age, and disease. Now, why is it that people don't do that? The two weaknesses of the heart. That's why it's important to understand this subject. The desire to dominate material nature, and once you dominate material nature, you begin to increase your material possessions, and then you become very attached to those material possessions, so attached you can't let go of them. Just like Ukraine is very attached to its territory, Russia is very attached to its territory, and they both have a disputed area where they both want the same land but for different purposes. And now they're killing each other. And they refuse to stop until one is destroyed or the other is destroyed. It's the same thing as the monkey that puts his hand on the cherry and refuses to let it go. You see? So here we see how dangerous these weaknesses of the heart are. Will we learn our lesson by discussing this? It's possible that some people will, and it's very possible that some people won't, because they can't let go of these two weaknesses of the heart. At least you're hearing about it, and you have to make a decision in your life. Okay, so you did your homework, but you named too many. Many of them are not pertinent. Okay, let me hear what they are. Microphone.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. So Krishna, promises made by Lord Krishna in Srimad Bhagavad Gita.
Okay, we can't hear you. Speak louder and slower.
Chapter 2. So Krishna is talking about in text 70, a person who is not disturbed by the incessant flows of desires that enters like the rivers into ocean, which is ever being filled but is always still, can alone achieve peace.
Okay, that's not pertinent.
So in text 72, that is the way of spiritual and godly life, after attaining which a man is not bewildered. If one is thus situated, even at the hour of death, one can enter into the kingdom of God.
Okay. Read that one again.
Text 72, that is the way of
72, what chapter?
chapter 2.
Okay.
That is the way of the spiritual and godly life, after attaining which a man is not bewildered. If one is thus situated, even at the hour of death, one can enter into the kingdom of God.
So what does it mean, not bewildered?
So it's basically bewildered by the desires of sense gratification, or we have to be free from desires. We have to give up all sense of proprietorship. And when we are devoid of false ego, we can attain real peace. And that is text 71, and that's what Krishna says, that is the way of the spiritual and godly life,
Okay,
after attaining which a man is not bewildered, if one is thus situated, even at the hour of
Not
death.
bewildered by the accumulation of material assets?
Sense gratification.
Sense gratification. Okay.
In chapter 3, text
So
30.
when you're bewildered by sense gratification, what does that mean? You're spending all your time trying to have sense gratification. Eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. Those are the 4 types of animal behavior. Eat, sleep, mate, and defend. So therefore, if that's all you do, and over 99% of the population of the world, that's all they do. They eat, they sleep, they mate, and defend. They're no better than animals. What is the one thing that the animals don't do that humans do? What is the one thing that differentiates a human being from an animal? Their ability to understand God, yes. That's the difference between a human being and an animal. The animals cannot understand their relationship with God. They don't even try. But human beings can understand their relationship with God and function in it. So if a human being avoids any attempt to understand their relationship with God and just engages in eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, they're no better than an animal. They're not actually functioning like a real human being. And this is, up to 99% of the population of the world is like that. So this should be discussed, and we should understand what's the difference between an animal and a human being. It doesn't matter what kind of body you have. You can have a human being body and still be an animal. But what counts is the serious attempt to understand God. Now, people say, "Oh, well, I go to church once a week." Okay, there is some attempt there to understand God. But the problem is, if you go to a church where they teach prosperity theology, you'll be misled. What is prosperity theology? It's a type of Christian preaching where they say God wants you to be wealthy. So if you tithe the church, that means if you give, let's say, 10% of your income to the church, you will become wealthy. But actually, what happens when you do that? The church becomes wealthy, but you still remain not wealthy. So it's a type of cheating. In other words, you're saying you give 10% to us and you will become a rich man. But actually, the church gets rich, but not the people. So the ability to meet a genuine devotee who is not giving spiritual knowledge by which you can have better sense gratification. That's called karma kanda. The karma kanda is, if you do this puja, then you will get this result. And if you do this other puja, you'll get this other result. And both results are your business will do better, or your sickness will go away, or you'll find a beautiful wife or a beautiful husband, and so forth. So those are called karma kanda activities, and they're promoted by brahmanas. The brahmanas make money by doing karma kanda, materialistic pujas for the benefit of people. So therefore, when usually the pandit comes to your house, and before he starts Satyanarayana Puja, he says, repeat, mama. Now, mama doesn't mean your mother. Mama means this puja is for me. Now that is a karma kanda puja. It's not pure devotion to the Lord. It's selfishness, where the whole purpose of the puja or the ritual is for material benefit. So someone may be sick, or someone might have financial problems, or someone might want their kid to pass the SAT test. So they'll call the pundit, and he'll come and say, "Oh, I got mantras for this. You want your kid to pass the SAT test? I got a mantra for that. Your grandmother has a backache. I got a mantra for that. Your business is not doing good. I have a mantra for that." So they'll do these ceremonies, but it has nothing to do with pleasing Krishna. It has to do only with pleasing the sense gratification of the person. Now, have you experienced this?
From childhood we were doing exactly this.
So this is going on big time in Hinduism, unfortunately. They have the same thing in Islam. They have the same thing in Buddhism. They have the same thing in Christianity. In fact, the whole Christian church split due to the karma kanda, what you would call blessings of the Catholic Church. So the Calvinists and the followers, the people who became Protestants. Protestant, what does a Protestant word mean? Look it up in the dictionary. Protestant. Protestant means they're protesting. They protested against what they considered was the deviation of the Catholic Church. They deviated from pure Christianity to giving blessings by which they made money and satisfied or tried to satisfy the desires of materialistic people. What's it say, Protestant?
Protestant?
Yes.
A member or follower of any of the Western Christian churches that are separate from the Roman Catholic Church and follow the principles of the Reformation, including the Baptist, Presbyterian and Lutheran churches.
Okay, but I want you to look up the meaning of the word Protestant. No, speak louder. There it is, protesting. So, if you see, Protestant church, these are people who protested against what they thought was the deviation of the Catholic Church 500, 600 years ago. Right. So, what did they do? They stopped doing the pujas. The Catholic Church has all these pujas also. They stopped doing all the pujas and they just focus on the Bible. That's what the Protestant churches do. They just focus on teaching the Bible. Now, they might teach it properly, they might not teach it properly. That's another question. But that was the way that they protested. They didn't want to do any of these karma kanda types of ceremonies anymore. That was going on big time in the Catholic Church. You see, so, and they have the same thing in Islam. They have the same thing in Buddhism. It's called blessings. You pay the Buddhist, the monk, some money. He does these blessings. In Islam, they have a series of curses. After their namaz, they'll have a half an hour of curses. Like, let Joe Biden have a heart attack. Let America blow up and fail. Let this. So the name for that the name for that in Turkish is called nahlet. Nahlet means a curse. So they'll do half an hour of cursing after the ceremonies. So I don't know if any of you ever experienced that. Prabhu, you don't know what you're missing. Exactly. But that has, what does that mean though? You want everyone to be happy. All right, fine. But in what way are they going to be happy? That's the question. Is it by doing the karma kanda ceremonies, or is it going to be by pure devotional service?
These things come from Vedic, these things, so it meant spirituality. Happiness is related to spiritual happiness.
But is that what's being done today?
Everything waters down, sir.
Yeah. Okay. So you have some more?
Chapter 3, Krishna is promising. In text 30, he's laying down, he's talking to Arjuna. Therefore, O Arjuna, surrendering all your works unto me, with full knowledge of me, without desires for profit, with no claims to proprietorship, and free from lethargy, fight. So in text 31, he makes the promise.
Okay, but that's not a.
Those persons who execute
That's
their
not a
duties
promise.
according to my injunctions and who follow this teaching faithfully, without envy, become free from the bondage of fruitive actions.
Yeah, but that's not the most significant one.
In chapter 4, text 7,
Most significant one is Sarvadharman Parityaja Mamekam Saranam Vraja Aham Tvam Sarvapapebhyo Mokshishyami Masucha. Give up all your different karmas or your different dharmas and surrender unto me. I promise you that I'll free you from all sinful reactions and you'll come back to me. You have no reason to hesitate or fear or doubt. That's a solid promise right there. Okay, go ahead.
chapter 4, whenever 7th verse, whenever and wherever there is a decline in religious practice.
That's not a significant one.
Oops.
You're just going through a whole bunch of different things. Just give the significant ones like Dhananjaya did.
Chapter 5, text 6, merely renouncing all activity yet not engaging in the devotional service of Lord cannot make one happy, but a thoughtful person engaged in devotional service can achieve the supreme without delay.
That's okay. But that's all right. Anyway, you're being too tangential. We want ones that are specific. For example, where Krishna says that if you engage in anyway, go ahead.
Chapter 6, verse 47. And of all yogis, the one with great faith who always abides in me, think of me within himself, and renders transcendental loving service to me. He is the most intimately united with me in yoga, and that is highest of all. This is my opinion.
That's not pertinent. I mean, it's a good verse, but it's not pertinent.
Chapter 7, verse 30. Those in full consciousness of me who know me, the Supreme Lord, to be the governing principle of the material manifestation of the demigods and of all the methods of sacrifice, can understand and know me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even at the time of death. And
It's not
chapter
pertinent.
8.
Man manabhava mad bhakto madhyajimam namaskuru mam evaisasi satyam te pratijane priyosmi. Always think of me. Become my devotee. Worship me and offer your homage unto me. Thus you will come to me without fail. I promise you this because you are my very dear friend. That's this real promise. You're skipping, you're going around, you're not thinking clearly. We want specific promises that Krishna made. All right, anyway, you get the idea. All right, so anybody else did there? You? Yeah. 10th chapter, verse number 11. Tesam satyayuktanam bhajtam pritipurvakam dadami buddhiyogam tam yenam upayanti te. This is the 10th chapter, verse number 11, which says, it's number 10, sorry. To those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. There it is, very simple. $11 point? Yes. Okay. 11:55. You have it? You can read it? Go ahead. My dear Arjuna, he who engages in my pure devotional service, free from the contaminations of fruitive activities and mental speculation, he who works for me, who makes me the supreme goal of his life, and who is friendly to every living being, he certainly comes to me.
Yes, Maharaj.
Now, these are promises. Do we believe Krishna? That's the question we have to ask ourselves. In other words, if you believe what Krishna is saying, then it becomes very easy to become liberated from the cycle of birth, death, old age, and disease. Most people think, oh no, it's normal to take birth, to get old, to get sick, and to die. That's not true. It's not normal. It's an artificial imposition on us. We have an eternal soul. So how can you say it's normal to die when your soul is eternal? You see, these are all misconceptions that people have today. Now, in their heart, they don't want to get old, they get sick and die. So then they come up with different strategies to extend life or to become immortal. But that's not possible. because these are laws of nature established by Krishna. It's impossible to go against them. So even though people know, look, I don't like this getting old, getting sick, and dying, but because they don't want to be Krishna conscious, they think, well, okay, then if I'm going to die, I insist that there's nothing after death. There's no karma. There's no going to hell or suffering. There's nothing. Well, that's another illusion. There is. There is the law of karma. There is a reckoning for of what a person did in their life, and they'll get a body in the next life based on what they deserve, based on what they did in their lifetime, and the desires they had, and the actions that they performed, the karma that they performed. So here we see there's so many misconceptions, and because of that, people don't do the right thing during their lifetime. They ruin their lifetime just by engaging in sense gratification and not being serious about spiritual life. So they suffer unnecessarily. And they teach their kids the same nonsense. There's nothing after death, and you should use all your energy just to make money and spend the money and buy as many things as you can and enjoy life by sense gratification. The whole system is rigged against making spiritual advancement. The whole system. Whether it's education, whether it's the government and their laws, whether it's culture wars, all these things are rigged to stop people from becoming Krishna conscious. Okay, so we'll stop right there. Are there any questions?
Maharaj, just one more reference for where Krishna makes a promise, and if you can confirm if that's a promise or not. It's 12, 6 and 7 verses, 12 chapter 6 and 7 verses, where Krishna says, "But those who worship me, giving up all their activities onto me, and being devoted to me without deviation, engaged in devotional service and always meditating upon me, having fixed their minds upon me, O son of Pratha, for them I am the swift deliverer from the ocean of birth and death."
Yeah, it's a wonderful verse.
Yeah, even 12.8, Maharaj. Just fix your mind upon me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and engage all your intelligence in me. Thus you will live in me always, without a doubt.
Yeah, I mean, that's good, but yeah, you see, Krishna is making a lot of promises. Now, do we believe Krishna? That's a decision you have to make. No one can force you. If you don't believe Krishna, then your life is going to be a failure. If you believe Krishna, your life could be a tremendous success because you go back to Godhead. You have no more birth, death, old age, disease. You have an eternal body. You already have an eternal body, but it's covered by the material body. So we get confused and we identify with the material body instead of with our spiritual body. So this is the great confusion, let's say. It has nothing to do with Confucius. It's a great confusion, right? Okay, any other questions? Yes. Give her the microphone, please.
Maharaj, in Hare Krishna Maharaj, in 1866, in the translation, give me 1 second, Maharaj. It says, "Abandon all varieties of religion and surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions, and do not fear." And when Krishna was saying this 5,000 years ago, Maharaj, there were no other religions. What religions should we understand when Krishna?
There were tons of religions. What do you mean there was no religion?
Wait, at that time also, Maharaj?
Of course. There have been, ever since the beginning of time, there are different religions. Because different folks, different slokas, right? Yeah. Well, we say slokas in English. Different folks, different slokas. So, people have different opinions. Right from the beginning of time, there were different opinions, different religions. You're thinking, well, in the past everything was really beautiful. If everything was beautiful, how come there was the Battle of Kurukshetra? Right? You had people who were highly educated, like Dhritarashtra, Duryodhana, but still they were in Maya. They were in illusion. Okay, and yet you had Mayavadis. Yes,
But did we have Mayavadis at that time, Maharaj?
of course.
5,000 years ago?
Of course.
I thought that came, at least from what I understood from you, after Shankaracharya came, I think that is when it
No.
became.
Way before Sankaracharya, there were Mayavadis. You go back, Hiranyakashipu, Ravana, they all had their own hodgepodge philosophy. Kamsa. Yeah. Previously, there were like 3 or 4 of these big, Mayavadis or demons. Now there's millions of them, right? But it's the same thing. They deviate from Krishna's teachings. Okay, so we'll stop right there. Thank you. Oh, where's the shield? Yes. One more question.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So Maharaj, it's like just I was thinking, like we were saying that there is only one difference between animals and humans.
One major difference.
One
yeah.
major difference. So I was just thinking on this one, and like, see, the animals also understand birth, death, old age, and disease. They understand this one.
How
like
do you
for
know
example,
that? How do you know that?
for example, a bird. Like I have seen a bird. Like she's going to lay eggs, and she started building nest. And after few days of building a nest, then she lays egg. So that means the bird knows that she's going to give birth. And then there are animals are there, like when earthquake comes, they started crying. That's what we human thinks basically. So it seems that they understand this phenomena of birth, death, and all those things basically.
Well, the bird builds a nest to lay her eggs.
Yeah.
Did she build a temple to worship God?
No.
So you see, they're missing that. If they build a temple also, then let's join her temple. But no, they don't build a temple to worship God. They build a nest
So they
to
have
lay the egg.
They have an understanding.
Just like you buy a house to protect your family, and you buy insurance to protect your family, and this thing and that thing. Right? So that doesn't just because you're trying to maintain the body, that's not spiritual. That's material.
So basically, they are missing the spiritual part. The other things, they have understanding.
Well, they have this is called self-preservation. Self-preservation is not spiritual. Self-preservation is a material thing. So the birds have the self-preservation instinct. The dogs do. All the animals do. Huh? Self-preservation, yeah. Self-preservation is not spiritual. It's a material attempt.
Okay.
We usually think self-preservation is something spiritual. It's not really spiritual. It's an attempt to maintain the body.
Like, for example, like this I heard basically, but I'm not sure that animals, when they feel hungry, then they only kill the other animals. Otherwise, they don't kill. So
No, that's true. Like tigers,
yeah.
lions, you know, they don't unnecessarily kill. But when they're hungry, they
means
necessarily kill.
so they have, means I will say that they have better understanding because they don't.
No, they don't have better understanding. They don't have spiritual understanding.
Yeah, spiritual. Other than that one, if
They
they
have better understanding than you for material things.
Mm.
Yeah, like do they drink liquor? Do they engage in illicit sex? Do they take intoxication? No. Do they eat meat? Yes. But that's their food. Right? So the birds, they eat worms, they eat dead flesh, things like that.
I mean, are those like animals are programmed for that one? Like
Yeah.
like for example, cow doesn't
Like
eat.
when you die, let's say you were a human being, but you like to eat the pig and all kinds of horrible things, right? So you don't deserve a human body in your next life. You're going to get the body of a pig. But to train you to have the body of the pig, it takes 6 to 8 or 9 months, where they'll throw you in a pool that only has stool in it. It's the only thing you can eat. And when you start developing the taste for eating stool, then you get the pig body. You have to be trained to get the pig body. This is explained in the 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. You have to be trained for your next body.
Okay. Yeah, that explains, yes.
So imagine, like, you get thrown into a pool where there's only stool, and you're hungry, but there's nothing else to eat. So you start eating the stool. Stool is nutritious also, right? And you say, oh, this piece of stool, it looks like it was a lemon meringue pie before, you know. So you develop this type of discrimination also by eating the stool. You have a good guess where it came from. Okay. Does that sound like a desirable thing? No. Why would we subject ourselves to such an outcome? It's better we become Krishna conscious, isn't it? Go back to Godhead in your spiritual body. No more birth, death, old age, and disease. All ecstatic festivals all the time and wonderful things happening. So the more we hear about the spiritual world, just like the more you hear about a place to go and have a vacation, the more you desire to go there. So the more you hear about the spiritual world, the more you'll desire to want to go there. The less you hear about the spiritual world, the less desire you'll have to go there. You rather go to Cancun or Mazatlan or this place or that place for a vacation. But we're hearing every day more and more about the spiritual world and who Krishna is and what our relationship with Krishna is, why we're doing this, so that we develop the desire to go back to Godhead.
Maharaj, one more thing. Like, is there any verse which states that the animal doesn't understand the spiritual things? Any in Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavatam, or somewhere?
Yeah, there are. Prabhupada makes that statement many times. Let me see if I can find it real quick. If not, then tomorrow I will show you where it says that. Yeah. Yes. Someone is saying something.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yes.
Maharaj, a very nice class. I was just speaking out loud. Bahunam Janmanam Ante, would you consider that? Or at least like after many, many births you get a...
Bhavanam Janmanamante Ganamam Prapadyante Vasudeva Sarvamiti Samahatma Sudurlabhaha. Okay, that's the 7th chapter, 19th verse. Let's take a look at it. 7th chapter, 19th verse. And it says, after many births and deaths, he who is actually in knowledge surrenders unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes and all that is. Such a great soul is very rare. No, that would not be one. That's a good verse, but it's not specific to an absolute promise. So, yeah, I'll answer your question tomorrow. I already did answer your question. So I said the bird is building a nest to lay its eggs. It's not building a temple. If the bird built a temple, then the bird is equal to a human being. So the Muslims build temples, the Christians build temples, the Sikhs build temples, right? Birds don't build temples. Therefore, they're missing that thing, the ability to understand the relationship with God.
We are building temples with generations. When humans were living in caves earlier.
That's not a fact. That's anthropological speculation. What was the time when Ravana was alive? We're talking about millions of years ago, 1.7, 1.8 million years ago. Were they living in caves? You see, so you're when you say the caveman was living in a cave, that's a speculation of the modern anthropologists. And Prabhupada said anthropologists are nonsense. You know what an anthropologist is? Look it up. Here you have the Vedic history. You go back 1.8 million years ago, they had more highly developed science than today. But if you listen to an anthropologist, no, they were living naked, living in caves, going around with clubs, and hitting dinosaurs on their head and eating them, or whatever. Complete nonsense. It's made up. There's no factual truth about that. In Satya Yuga, they did not build buildings that would last thousands of years, because and the example is Gautam Muni. One day, Narada Muni encountered Gautam Muni, who was chanting Hare Krishna. And Narada Muni said, Gautam Muni, you're chanting 24 hours a day. Why don't you take a little break and build a little hut for yourself so you can be protected from the rain? And right away, Gautam Muni said, I don't want to waste 1 minute doing that. So you see, they didn't spend time building these big buildings in Satya Yuga. Because they were so engaged in devotional service that they lived very, very simply. Just like if you had a chance to live very, very simply, you don't have to work because you're following Sanatana Dharma, and Krishna is making everything easy for you. There's plenty. You can pick greens just by walking in the forest, and you have cow it's giving you good milk, and the cow's grazing. You don't need the land. You don't have to buy land. It just grazes. It's like Krishna takes the cows out every day to graze. They don't have to buy land to do that. Right. So life was very, very easy. So they didn't have to build these big buildings and make them, like the pyramids that can last for thousands and thousands of years. Okay. They lived very simply, and they went back to Godhead. That was the culture. Okay. Yeah.
Beneath the woman level, there are 8 million species of life. That's what they say. 14.18.
14.8.
14.18.
Oh, 14.18.
18 and paragraph number 2.
The lowest quality, the mode of ignorance, is that what you're saying? So beneath the human level, there are 8 million species of life, birds, beasts, reptiles, trees, etc. And according to the development of the mode of ignorance, people are brought down to these abominable conditions. The word tamasaha is very significant here. Tamasaha indicates those who stay continuously in the mode of ignorance without rising to a higher mode. Their future is very dark. There is an opportunity for men in the modes of ignorance and passion to be elevated to the mode of goodness, and that system is called Krishna consciousness. But one who does not take advantage of this opportunity will certainly continue in the lower species or the lower modes. So here it's showing that right from the beginning of time there were these animals and different species, and they were lower than human beings, and their level of life is very difficult because they're in the mode of ignorance. Does that answer your question? There are 8 million species that you go through before you come to the human form of life. Those lower species are all in the mode of, mostly in the mode of ignorance. Okay? Yeah, what does it say? Answer? Okay. Thank you very much. Send me that quote. Okay. All goes to Srila Prabhupada ki jai. At least we learned one thing today. Animals are less intelligent than human beings. Want to sing? Yeah. Go ahead, real quick. Oh, yeah. I don't know. You have to ask, when is it? You have to ask Mukunda. No, you have to talk to Mukunda. Not Tarika. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. Okay. We have a lot of things, people, programs to go to in the month of May. So we'll see. I can't promise you right now.
श्री गुरु चरण पद्मा केवल भक्ति सद्मा
Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakti Sadma
श्री गुरु चरण पद्मा केवल भक्ति सद्मा श्री गुरु
Charana Padma Kevala Bhakti Sadma
बंदो मुई सावधान मते
Bando Mui Savadana Mate
बंदो मुई सावधान मते
Bando Mui Savadana Mate
जहर प्रसादे भाई ए भव तुरिया जाए जहर
Prasade Vai E Bhavatoriya Jai
कृष्ण प्राप्ति होए जहाँ होते कृष्ण
Krishna Prapti Hoya Hoite
गुरु मुख पद्मा वाक्य चिते ते कुरिया क्या गुरु मुख
Padma Vaikya
चिते ते कुरिया क्या और ना कोरी हो मोने आशा
Arana Kariya Mane Asha
श्री गुरु चरणे रति ऐसे उत्तम गति श्री गुरु
Charane Rati
ऐसे उत्तम गति जय प्रसादे पूरे सर्व आशा
He Prasade Pure Sarva Asa
जय प्रसादे पूरे सर्व आशा जय प्रसादे पूरे सर्व चक्षुदान दिलो जय जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से चक्षुदान दिलो जय जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से चक्षुदान दिलो जय जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से दिव्य ज्ञान हृदय प्रकाशितो
Prakasito
प्रेम भक्ति जह होते अविद्या विनाश जते
Bhakti Jaha Hoite Avidya Vinasajate
वेद गाय जहर चरितो श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु अदम जनर बंधु लोकनाथ लोकेर जीवाना ताहा प्रभु कोरो दया देह मोरे पाद छया प्रभु को हा प्रभु कोरो दया देहो मोरे पाद छया प्रभु कोरो bejagu tribhuvana Srila Prabhupada ilo sharana Srila Prabhupada ilo sharana Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada
Prabhupada Jaya, Prabhupada Jaya, Prabhupada Jaya, Prabhupada
Jaya Gurudeva Jaya Gurudeva Jaya Gurudeva Jaya Gurudeva
Gurudeva Jaya, Gurudeva Jaya, Gurudeva Jaya, Gurudeva
Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Nama
Vishnupadaya, Krishna Prastaya, Bhutale, Srimate
Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namaste
Saraswati Devi, Gauravani Pracharine, Nirvisesha
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya
Chaitanya,
Prabhu Nityananda
Nityananda,
Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivashadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Shri Advaita Gadadhar Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna
Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna Hare Hare
Hare
Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare
Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Nitai Gaura Hari Bol bol, Nitai Gaura Hari bol, Nitai Gaura Hari bol,
Hare Bol,
Nitai Gaura Hari bol. Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Jayam Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Paravajakachasta Sattara Shimad. His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Vedanta Koti Vaishnava Vindi Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Kahosh Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sidvaita Gadadhar Sivasati Gaur Bhakta Vindi Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Sam Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Mayapura Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Tulasi Devi Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Ganga Maya Ki Jai. Jamuna Maya Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Nitai Gaura Premanande. All glories to the simple devotees. All glories to the simple devotees. All glories to the simple devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Guranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Patita Bhavana Ki Jai. Namaste Saraswati Devi Guruvani Pacharini Nirvisesa Sunyavani Paskatita Sitani. The lotus feet of our spiritual master are the only way by which we can attain the pure devotional service. I bow down to his lotus feet with great honor and reverence. By his grace, we can cross the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. My only wish is to have my conscience purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attachment to his lotus feet is the perfection that fulfills all desires. He opens my darkened eyes and fills my heart with transcendental knowledge. He is my Lord, birth after birth. From him, ecstatic prema emanates. By him, ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing of his character. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy, defender, the poor, Lord and master of devotees. O Master, be merciful unto us. Give us the shade of your lotus feet. Your fame is spread throughout all the three worlds. We take shelter of your lotus feet. Srila Prabhupada Ki